Hi folks, and welcome to another Sonic Academy tutorial with me, Phil Johnston. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at making some breaks. You might have noticed in the last few months that breaks has been making a massive resurgence, and only this week we've had Bicep's album drop. Breaks are definitely a thing that's hot at the minute, so I'm going to show you a couple of techniques that you can use to make your own breakbeats. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need when making some breaks is some classic funk breakbeats. And there's actually a cool website you can go to here called rhythmlab.com/breakbeats, and they have a massive list of all the classic breaks. This is absolutely amazing collection, and this is what I trawled through to get some interesting breaks that I wanted to use. So check that out. There is a disclaimer there, obviously, and I would reiterate that these are commercial songs, so be careful what you do with them. That being said, you hear breaks all the time in tracks, so I guess if you don't notice it, it's not going to be a problem. I'm going to show you a couple of ways of chopping up the breaks and using them in a more creative way. The first thing that I sort of used when I was starting off to chop up beats was recycle, and actually I still think it's probably one of the better ways to do it. And we're going to take a look at how to do it in Ableton next, but I first wanted to show recycle. So you can get recycle from Propeller Heads. I think it's like 89 quid now, and basically what it does is it has an automatic algorithm that detects the attack points of drums and creates markers, and then you can export it in different ways. Now, the benefit that I see over using Ableton is when you get it into recycle, you can actually export it, and it'll export individual clips of each of the individual drums. So that's really, really handy. In Ableton, it doesn't actually do that. It just sort of puts markers in the clips, and there's no way to easily get individual samples out. So if you're trying to organize a sample pack or organize your sort of drums into different categories, kick drums, snares, stuff like that, recycle's actually a better job.
Whoa there, Phil. You may not be able to do it in Ableton, but you can kind of do it in Logic with a few caveats. Let's have a look. Okay, so we've brought our worm breakbeat in here. Just make sure that you use adapt tempo rather than keep tempo. If you use keep tempo, it'll adapt the loop to your project tempo. We want to adapt the project to the loop tempo, so it's the original tempo. You simply right click, go down to convert sampler to new track. We want to slice at transient markers. We want to create a new sampler instrument, and we want our trigger notes to start at C1. So click OK, blum blum blum, all done. And now we have the individual slices across the sampler. So if we go to mapping, let's go to zones. We can play it back. So a little bit janky. One thing we need to kind of do, a couple of things, is we need to switch on one shots. So it just plays from one to the other. The other thing we need to do, if we want to slow this down, so we start to get a bit sort of crunchy there. So we need to go through and switch on follow tempo on each individual. I'll speed this process up. So once you switch on follow tempo, it like recycle, it will stretch the samples when we slow the tempo down. So there you go. That's how you can recycle in Logic. Back to you, Phil.
And the way recycle works is we just drag up our sensitivity until you can sort of see most of the hits being detected. I think that's probably pretty close there. And then you can actually go through and check. And if there's any detected that aren't showing up, you can just draw in your own . And then once you have got sort of all the hits detected, let me just add this one here. Once you've got all the hits detected, you have to enter the amount of bars. So we count bars. 1, we'll get at the start. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. So we've actually got 3 bars there. And then that puts it into preview mode, or we can put it in preview mode, and then we can adjust our tempo and stuff. And you have a bunch of other controls, but I'm not going to touch any of them because I want the sort of clean original samples. So I'm going to put it back down to around the tempo that it was originally at. And then all we want to do now is go to File, Export, and we can export our break. So I'll write Amen break, and then we can save. And I'm going to choose 24, just like to keep things 24-bit. I'm not sure what the original sample was, but sure. Okay, now let's go into our breaks folder. So I'll go into samples, classic breaks, Amen break, and we can see here that we now have we've got all our stuff chopped up individually. Now what I've actually done, I've gone through all these breaks and chopped them up into their folders, and then I have made a single drums pack of all these. So there we go, single drums, and I've separated them out into kicks, snares, and cymbals. So that's a really cool way of getting your stuff chopped up, because now we have all these individual elements. So let's head over to Ableton. We can see in Ableton we've got our classic breaks here again. We've got our recycle folder, and we've got our single drums folder. And we've got all our stuff separated. Now what I'm going to be able to do is create a different drum rack for each of those types of sounds. So one for kicks, one for snares, one for cymbals, one for percussion. And that just keeps things a bit more organized for me, and that's why I really like the recycle method of doing this. If you do want to do it in Ableton, this is the process. I'm sure you've all seen this before. You can just drop a loop in, and then you just go right click, slice to new MIDI track, and click OK. And now we have you just pull that down to take your loop mode off. So again, we've got the Ableton way of doing it,
and Logic.
I'm gonna show you using the samples that I've created from Recycle because I prefer that method. But you do have that way. The problem, as I said, is that you don't get these actual individual slices to play around with. You could go and export them individually and do it that way, but it's a lot quicker and a lot neater doing it with Recycle. So what I'm going to do is create a drum rack. And I'm going to name this one Kicks. And then I'll duplicate this. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is go into my samples, single drums, kicks, and I can just grab all these. Do the same for snares. Yeah, so I mean, if you're serious about breaks, I would highly recommend looking into Recycle. It's just a really nice way of chopping up, very, very quick. Okay, cymbals. And finally, percussion. I've only a few elements there. Okay, so now let's get into building our beats. And this is pretty straightforward. We just need to find ourselves nice kicks. Generally the sort of breaks now, you don't want any sort of major splashy cymbals on them, so we're looking for sort of maybe that one. That's quite nice. All the Amen ones will have massive cymbals on them, so We like that one. Actually, I think those two top ones are probably going to work the best. And then we can work on our snares, and we'll just get a basic snare pattern. Can't beat a bit of an aim in snare. Just double up again. We're just sort of trying to create, sort of take it away from those original breaks and make something sort of interesting. Put in some incidental notes, and we'll do a bit more with that with the cymbals, because they're sort of where some of the incidental notes are really sitting. Go back into our kicks and add some more kicks in. Get some smaller kicks in. And then we'll go into our cymbals, and what we're looking for here is just some of those sort of incidental shuffle type things, like a chicka chicka. Okay, so we'll try these ones. And we'll also add a bit of our incidental snares in here. And we'll speed the whole thing up a tiny bit. And then, as I said, we'll use the tambourines from our hot pants. So tambourine. And we can just loop that round. We'll go in and put some filtering on that, just to sort of take out some of the other elements. Just a high pass filter. And we can also beef up our kick. So let's get our kick 2 out. And we'll try some of the drum and bass presets. Okay, let's try that one. And we don't really want a huge amount of noise on it. So just really the sub, because we're getting the sort of clickiness and all the sort of other elements from the main one. So we're just really looking at that sort of lower end. And I'm going to put the velocity onto kick 2, and I don't want all the kicks just landing at the same velocity, so I'm going to move this one especially because it's sort of more of an incidental one. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to be doing is just sort of tightening up all those different sounds. So if you notice, like the bicep stuff or any of the other stuff that's going on at the minute, you don't really want them like super loose and long snares. So you want to sort of tighten that up. So what we can do is we can select, say, our fade out, and then we can assign that copy to all siblings. And then we can just maybe bring it in a bit. So I'm just shortening those notes, or shortening the sample lengths. And we'll do it with these as well, these symbols, and just sort of tighten those up. Again, we're just using our fade out control and then the sample length. And let's do something similar with these. I'm not fond of that kick here. Just because of that bounce. Let me see if I can just fix it with... So I like that attack, but... bit better. Okay, so now we're just going to do a bit of processing and just get our sort of final beat sounding cool. So let's just get a bit of reverb. My preferred reverbs at the minute, always Valhalla Room or Valhalla Plate or Valhalla Vintage. And we're looking for something quite subtle on this. That's the medium gate, which is quite good, or you can sort of open up the depth and it'll give you a bit more of a tail, and then if we bring the size down we can get sort of a more roomy vibe. And that just gives us a bit of sense of space, but doesn't like overpower anything. And one of the things, if you want a sort of more aggressive vibe on your kick, you can put a sort of a reverb vibe on it. And Prodigy used to do this a lot, like a... You can hear that on there. It's like a clubby warehouse vibe to it. You can just use a click. If you go into our reverb preset section, you'll see a bunch there. Bit of low pass filtering on it. Just gives it that sort of low end rumbly sort of vibe. Add a bit of EQ. And do a bit of mix and just bring down that. Just notice that that snare is a bit over to the right hand side, so we can just move it over. Obviously you can do way more variations with the patterns and stuff like that. And then if you want to turn it into a sort of a proper track, let me see if I can do this quickly. We can add in some, let's go, some samples. It always has sort of a vocal, a wee looped vocal. So pick a vocal from a sample pack. Okay, that should do. Try a different one on top as well. Okay, and then we need a nice big subby bass. And a 2, obviously. Just go an int project. Down an octave. Make it quite buzzy. Get a sub. That should do. I'll just keep this one and we'll put a load of reverb on it. And there you go. That's sort of the basic idea. You've got the breaks there, sounding pretty cool, and we just threw in some other stuff to sort of give you an idea of how that would sound. So let's recap. We used Recycle to get our breaks and chop them up, and then we got them all into single folders. So we've got all our kicks, all our snares, all our hi-hats and stuff into one folder, and that just gives us a bit more sort of versatility when making stuff. And then I showed you how to do it in Ableton as well,
And Logic.
and that can work pretty well, but it's slightly more tricky if you wanted to, say, reuse those samples in a different project. So there we go. If you have any questions, as always, hit us up on our Sonic Academy forums or on our Facebook group. And that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.